Hey everyone, how well do you know Ragnarok Mobile? Today I'll go through some confusing and interesting mechanics in a true or false format. After, I'll explain the correct answer. Some of these mechanics can actually affect your damage or efficiency, so it's good to know them. Also, fantastic news, I have codes to give away. I have 10C, 5 global, and 5 EU codes. In the comment section, let me know an interesting or confusing ROM mechanic. Please include your Discord ID and which server you play on, such as C, Global, or EU, and winners will start getting codes January 5th, 2025. Ragnarok Mobile has a ton of interesting mechanics, so I look forward to reading your comments. You may also have a chance to show up in a future video too, since I'll post some of my favorite comments there. Now, let's get started to see how well you know this game. 1. Your weapon determines if you're melee or ranged. Some classes can equip both ranged and melee weapons. Most bizarrely, a hunter can equip both a weapon and a sword. But if you're a hunter using a sword, then are you affected by ranged attack? Visually you are ranged, but if you're using a melee sword, how does that work? Here I am using a crossbow. I hit the dummy without any buffs, just auto attack, and I hit for 595,000. Then I equip a quiver, which gives ranged attack plus 7%. As expected, the damage goes to 603,000 since crossbow is ranged. But what if we equip a melee only card? I put the Goblin Leader card, which gives lifesteal from melee auto attacks. Nothing happens since crossbow is not melee. Next I equip a Fire Knife, which is a melee weapon. I hit for 500,000. Next I equip the quiver again. The damage is unchanged at 500,000. Despite seeing visually it is ranged, the damage does not change. Next I equip the Goblin Leader card again. This time you can see lifesteal is happening with the green numbers above my head. So this statement is true and shows that you are ranged or melee depending on what weapon you're using, so be careful with what gear you use. Another popular class that is affected by this is Dorum, and that's where I get most questions from. You can use both Dagger Dorum, which is melee, or the Wand Dorum, which is ranged. Next for question number 2, true or false, magic attacks are affected by elemental damage modifiers. Physical users can use cards that do extra damage to certain elements, such as the Seroma card, but can magic classes take advantage of this too? Here I set the dummy to be water attribute. My Holy Light Strike hits for 394,000. Next I equip the Seroma card. My damage remains unchanged at 394,000. This was a super confusing mechanic when I first started ROM, since they didn't explain this to magic users, so please don't make the same mistake. So the answer to this question is false. Magic attacks are not affected by elemental damage modifiers. Next for number 3, true or false, magic attacks are not affected by size damage modifiers. Yet again, this is another confusing mechanics for magic users. Physical damage users are affected by size damage modifiers. So here I set the size of the dummy to large. I Holy Light Strike for 338,000. Next I equip the White Knight card for 3% damage to large monsters. My Holy Light Strike damage remains unchanged at 338,000. So again, this is quite confusing to new players as size damage modifiers don't work for magic classes in general. The exception to the rule are classes that specifically say size matters for magic damage classes. For example, Sarah Allen's Heavenly Justice, which calculates the bonus size damage. Other examples include Soulbinder as well. For Sarah Allen, here you see her Maple by Flame hits for 2.08 million. Then I equip the White Knight card for 3% extra damage to large monsters. I now hit for 2.13 million, which means the extra damage did work. So the statement magic attacks are not affected by size damage modifiers is false, although it depends on the magic class. Next for true or false question number 4, you can always convert the element of a boss. Let's try this out with Saint, who is able to dark convert when they deal damage to the boss. But does this work everywhere? Let's first try with Museum. I'm on Legend Museum and I attempt to dark convert the dragon. You can see from this icon on the top left that the dragon stays as undead. that means it did not work. Next, I attempt this on Ponape Secret Realm. You can see the conversion to dark does happen since the icon changes. Ponape Secret Realm is an instance where people often dark convert. Next, I also attempt this on White Star Airship, which is another popular spot where people convert. You can see the Cthulhu goes from water to dark. Next, this also works in the Void and with MVPs in the field. And in the past, people used to do water conversion at Thanatos Tower back in the day when it came out to do extra damage. Next, Ghost Palace is a tricky one though. In Brave, you can see the conversion does work, but in Legend difficulty it isn't that easy. Mike's talks about a trick to convert, so check out this video, I'll put in the description, where he's able to show how you can dark convert even at higher difficulties. So the statement, "you can always convert the element of a boss," is false. It really depends on the instance. Don't end up trying to convert something that doesn't work and trying to optimize your damage because it will fail. Next, for question number 5, true or false, you can have too much ignore defense in PvE. For PvE, the amount of ignore defense you need for instances have been data mined and tested. If you want more details on this, check out the description for a video link about critical stats. So let's just begin with Lost Isles. You do need 200% ignore defense to bypass the defense percentage. I set the home dummy to be the Legend Golem. First I begin with 196.6% ignore defense. I'm using a clean Vicious Wound with a 10% ignore defense random attribute. I hit for 2.59 million damage. Then I swap in a clean Vicious Wound with 20% ignore defense random attribute. My ignore defense is at 206.6%. I now hit for 2.74 million damage. You can see that the damage did increase because I wasn't at the 200% ignore defense before. Now I equip a Vicious Wound with 30% ignore defense random attribute. I'm now at 216.6% ignore defense. Despite having 10% additional ignore defense, I still hit for the same amount of damage, which is 2.74 million damage. So be careful about exceeding the required ignore defense, it won't add any more damage. You should be using other gear instead to further optimize your damage. Next for number 6, true or false, there are damage caps on bosses in Lost Isles, Elysium, Brave, and Legend. Some instances like Thanatos Tower let you insta-kill bosses if you hit hard enough, but how about Lost Isles and Museums at Brave difficulty or above? First I have Saitama in Lost Isles Brave. I hit the golem for 766.4 million, which knocks the golem down to 90% HP. Next I use Saitama again in Lost Isles Brave, but this time I go full on buffs. I now hit the golem for 1.3 billion, but still only at 90% HP after one hit. So you can see there is a damage cap because the differences in damage still only take off 10% of his HP. This is also true for Legend, as I've seen videos where people hit really hard, but the damage is still not that much on the golem. This is important to know since hitting hard and slow has its limit, which is why people prefer to hit at faster intervals instead, since the DPS will be better. This is why popular classes like Klitzberg are a lot better because they hit at a very high rate and still hit pretty hard, as opposed to say Wataru, which can hit really hard but very slow. Next is number 7, true or false, maintaining buffs with Ymir switching works anywhere. The Ymir switching mechanic is quite a popular way to maintain buffs from one build since it's safe on Ymirs, and then switch to another. For example, here I have an MDef build for Ronin and a DPS build, so I can take advantage of the MDef while casting Sink or Swim, which then converts MDef to magic attack for a big boost. Now, does this work everywhere? Let's try it out. First let's try it in GVG areas. I cast Prepare for Elite into my MDef build. I have 74,000 magic attack. Then I switch to my DPS build. I now have 86,000 magic attack, and then I show my gear quickly again. The Ymir switching worked successfully because the massive amount of magic attack did get converted over to my other build. Next let's try PvE instances. I cast Prepare for Elite into my MDef build and I have 74,000 magic attack. Then I switch to my DPS build. I have 86,000 magic attack. Then I show my gear quickly again. Once again, this did work correctly since my magic attack was still brought over to my DPS build. The great thing is this works on all PV instances, which is nice. Where this doesn't work is anywhere else, such as the field, void, or in town. For example, here I am in the field and I cast Prepare for Elite with my MDef build. I have 78,000 magic attack. Then when I MDef switch, and then I show my gear quickly again. You can see my magic attack is at 25,000. From the status bar, you can also see I lost all my buffs when I switched to Yimmers. So be careful using this, it doesn't work everywhere, and I've had some people ask me why they can't MDef switch properly, and so this is the reason why. So the answer to this question is false. Next for number 8, true or false, you can escape Magma Golem's Stone Prison Burial. One of the problems with the Golem is his insta-kill, which has often ruined my solo legend runs when I wasn't fast enough. Is there a way to escape this? Recently, when doing a legend run with my free-to-play Wrathcracy, I tried to do the flying from the Divine Verdict just as the counter goes to 0. Surprisingly, it worked as it disappeared from the status and I could continue attacking. The same thing works if you cast AoE before the countdown ends and it takes out the HP of the prison so you can survive. For example, my Magic Drum had cast AoE above my head before the countdown and allowed me to escape because the HP of the prison disappeared. So, this is true, you can escape the Magma Golem's Stone Prison Burial, and this helps if you're attempting to solo this boss. Next for number 9, true or false, if you channel change and you're in a party, you won't get drops from mini or MVP monsters. Many people use multiple accounts to go MVP hunting. This is to give buffs to their main DPS, but will their slave accounts end up getting their drops? Here, my alternate account has the channel cooldown since I did a channel change recently. I'm in the party with my main. After Lolly goes down, I get nothing. So the statement is true, and if you're hunting with slaves, make sure you channel change them beforehand so you can still get buffs on your main, but won't lose your drops to them. Finally, for number 10, true or false, elemental armor cards can affect your heal. Here you can see I'm healing for more than 100,000 each tick with Colosseal Heal. Next, I'll put on the Evil Druid card, which turns my armor into undead. Now I heal for 1. This was an interaction that was super confusing early on when I started playing, and I accidentally equipped this card and couldn't be healed properly. So the statement is true, elemental armor cards can affect your heal. Well, how well did you do with those 10 questions? Let me know in the comments section. This game definitely has a lot of depth and also a lot of confusing things, so there's always plenty of stuff to discover. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a video that I recommend, and if you want more Ragnarok Mobile guides, check out this playlist over here.